This is KUGAN CASSIUS for iFilm London. We're in Glasgow here for the press conference for Ricky Burns versus Raimundo Beltran. With me, have the promoter just checking his mic's on. For Matchroom Sport, Eddie Hearn. What's happening, old boy?
Disappointing turnout.
No one's turned up to your press conference. Did you send the press release?
I've had press conferences like that before.
What's the worst press conference you've ever had?
Oh, do you know what? The worst press conference I've ever done. I mean, the good thing about Scotland, and actually same with Belfast as well, you always get an unbelievable turnout. You know, we did a media workout for Raimundo Beltran on Monday, page in every paper on Beltran. It's great. The worst press conference I've ever done was when Brooke fought Rafael Jakovic at the Ponge Forge, and we did a press conference on, I think, the Wednesday, and it clashed with something going on with England in Manchester. And I turned up and I walked in the room and there was Sky and one bloke from the local paper, and that was it. So we've sat down. Jakovic don't speak a word of English, so I've sat down and said, and you know, I know a lot of promoters will do a full press conference with just you there. You know what I mean? No disrespect, but I just sat down and said, right, well, really looking forward to the fight. And now we're going to break for one-on-ones. And he just done the Sky interview, and then we did the local paper.
To be honest, though,
it's an horrible feeling.
To be fair, that was probably at the start of your journey where no one really gave a fuck about you.
Yeah.
And now you've sort of become a little bit bigger. I suppose they feel obliged to turn up.
Yeah, but I think you need to have gone through those stages to appreciate a good turnout at presser. There's nothing worse. It's like having a birthday party and no one turns up.
Have you ever had one of them?
Yeah, quite a few. Most years. But it's just a little bit soul destroying. I remember when I got my first job in London, and they made me some business cards. I went to a house party. I think I was like 18, and I gave out my business cards to everybody, like all my mates, people from school. And when I left about 3 o'clock in the morning, all I can see was business cards all over the floor. You know, it's like one of them. Oh, thanks, mate. Congratulations, nice one. Mug. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think anyone does that with your business cards now?
I don't really carry business cards. I think it's a bit muggy.
How would you give? Would you just give your number or your email? What would you do?
I don't know. It's like, I don't. You know, when you go into a meeting, well, you wouldn't know, but and it's like, oh yeah, there's my business card. Oh yeah, that's my business, and everyone's swapping business cards. Like, I'm not really into business cards.
So if someone came up to you and wanted to talk a bit of business with you, yeah, what would they and said to you? Oh, well, you know, give us your number, Ed.
I'd just say email me.
But if they're that important, you'll say, oh, here's my number. Yeah. If you get emailed off, you're a mug, basically.
Yeah, I might ask them for their email if they're that important.
The first day I ever met you was at the Olympia when Rocky Fielding won the prize fighter, and I said to you, oh Ed, that interview we just done, you know, do you want to see it at some point? You went, yeah, just email me.
Well, there you go. It's not hard to work out my email address, is it?
No. Eddie@eddiehearn.com. We're here. New season's just started. Well, just about to start. Kicks off live on Sky Sports 2 this weekend. Feedback from this fight when it was first announced. You got a bit of stick over it. Everyone expected some sort of massive unification fight for Ricky Burns, but this is an actual tough fight, isn't it, for Ricky Burns?
Some proper boxing fans know how good a fight this is. You know, it's a 5-star fight on BoxRec, and you know, I mean, we can't always rely on BoxRec, but generally, you know, they know what they're talking about. Beltran, as I said before, is the toughest challenger outside of an existing world champion, in my opinion, within the division. I put him up there with, you know, DeMarco. I put him ahead of Linares, which was another opponent we looked at. This is the toughest fight of Ricky Burns' career, 100%. So, in that respect, it's a great fight to kick the season off with. Always great to come to Scotland, you know, not just for the turnout, these kind of things. The crowd is always fantastic. We brought Michael Buffer over as well. Let's not forget Ricky Burns is a 2-weight world champion, and you know, we got to hype this thing up. And you know, saying about, I was speaking to one of the guys from Top Rank the other day. I said, don't understand the difference between fights in America and fights in the UK. Fights in America, I just don't see any passion. You know, here, you come down, you watch this show on Saturday night, you turn up in the venue, you see people singing, dancing, shirts off. The passion for their own is what makes this country so great and this nation so great. You know, whether it's Scotland, England, Ireland, it's the same kind of thing. You know, and you just don't get that feel in America. So it's great to start the season in Scotland. You know, we've got such a great season already lined up. Also the international fights. And I just think boxing's in a great place at the moment. More people are talking about it. You know, I was at the, I don't know if you know Kug, but I was at the GQ Awards last night, just, you know, swanning about. And everyone was talking about boxing. You know, Noel Gallagher come up to me, I just dropped a name down there, and he went, "Oh, you're that boxer? Oh, I'm right into my boxing at the moment, can I come watch FROCH, blah, blah, blah." You know, Samuel L. Jackson, Piers Morgan, you know, Elton John, they would all come up to me going, "We can't stop watching ringside, your KUGAN CASSIUS interviews." That's a lie. But there is a real buzz, genuine buzz about boxing at the moment.
How do you feel when you go to a place like that and you just name drop some megastars? Well, beyond megastars, Samuel L. Jackson, like I said, even Piers Morgan. And along the ladder, you're relatively, I'm being nice to you, you're relatively unknown compared to them. So I suppose you probably just felt like I do when I come to one of your shows.
No, you get mobbed. Do you know what? It was like last night at this GQ Awards, I was with Darren and Carl, and I mean, it was AA list. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we're talking Samuel L. Jackson, Michael Douglas, Justin Timberlake, Pharrell Williams, Tom Ford, Piers Morgan, Elton John. Do you know what I mean? You know, and I don't, not meaning it to sound muggy, but I've been privileged in my life to meet a lot of famous and successful people, especially in sport. And there's not many people that I sort of, you know, think, wow. But last night was a couple of those wet, you know, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, he's a bit of a legend, isn't he? I mean, even Justin Timberlake, I'm not like a massive Justin Timberlake, but I think he's cool. Tom Ford is, I mean, he's the man of fashion, isn't he? And I don't know, Darren Barker got completely mugged off by Samuel L. Jackson. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Darren won't appreciate this, but just tell the story, go on.
So we're standing there, and all of a sudden Samuel L. Jackson walks across the room. And Darren goes, "Samuel L. Jackson." He said, "I've got to have a photo." I went, "Dale, you can't ask for a photo in here, mate." He went, "No, I don't care." So he goes up to him and he goes, Samuel, I'm really sorry for asking, but do you mind if you have a quick photo?" He says, "Well, if you're sorry for asking, no," and walked off. And Darren was like that. I'm gonna chin him. You know, it was so funny. So there's a new phrase now, you've been barkered off. You know what I mean?
I feel sorry for Barker. What should Barker have done differently? Say it was a performance. What should he have done?
I said, let me do it. Let me go up to him and say, "Listen, I know you're a busy man. We've got the new middleweight champion of the world in the room. He'd love a photo with you." Then we would have been all right. But it's just the way up to him.
That's confident talking. Cause
but what was nice is Russell Brand, who is a funny man, went up to Darren later in the night and asked him for a photo. So he felt a little bit better. But
did anyone ask you for a photo?
No, not at all. I said to Rio Ferdinand, I said, because I was like totally two bob in this room. I was irrelevant. I was an irrelevant man last night, right? But I said to Rio Ferdinand, I said, "It's great, isn't it?" I said, "All these people in the room, no one gives a fuck about you." But I was trying to explain to it, like, he didn't quite get it. But it was true, you know. He when he goes out normally, he must get absolutely mobbed. But in this room, in that company, no one knew who he was, really. Got all his international, you know. It was proper A-list, you know. Not really my cup of tea. I mean, it was lovely to be invited and great to be there, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say I had like an amazing time. I was just sort of going to have a few beers with your mates, wouldn't you?
That's your invite to the next GQ award party down the drain.
Thanks to GQ and Dylan, the editor, you know. But FROCH won Sportsman of the Year, which is brilliant accolade for a brand and a magazine like GQ, and of course who they had to choose from. So
that's good. That's good. I'm glad you had a good night anyway.
Thanks, mate.
I just stayed in. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the new Sky deal is, if there is one?
Our deal?
Your deal.
Yeah. Well, we've got 1 year left on the contract. We signed a 2-year deal last year, and we'll be making a new announcement probably next week. I have to be careful with my timings because I say early next week, and then it comes to like Tuesday, and people say, "You haven't announced, you said early this week." So I would say in the next week or so, we will announce our future in terms of our broadcast partnership and our broadcast deal. And I'm very excited. I think, you know, the model has been working fantastically well. stable that we've put together is second to none. And plenty, you know, and the new proposed deal will give us even more opportunity to expand, to bring in more fighters, to give people more opportunities. You know, I don't think there's a matchroom fighter that ever knows when he's not fighting next, and I think that is so key to motivate individuals, young people in their training camps, throughout their career. Most fighters know when they're boxing, and well, actually all fighters know when they're boxing, and most know when they're boxing next and next. You know, next 2-3 fights. And I want to keep the fighters motivated. You know, and it's growing the team. It is difficult to try and reach out to all the fighters all the time. You know, it's, you know, you'll probably get one fighter say, "Yeah, I spoke to Eddie for a week," etc., etc. But this new deal allows us to stabilise our position as the leading promoter in the country, to maintain our ethos of giving the fighters the best opportunity that anyone can, to enable us to grow with young fighters and provide the path for them to succeed. And I'm very excited. And you know, it's going to be a major announcement for us, and you know, we look forward to it.
Just hold that. Did you think I was going to have an I love Eddie t-shirt? No. You announced that tickets for FROCH versus GROVES will go on sale on 17th of September, midday after the press conference. We still don't know whether this is going to be pay-per-view. Is this something you already know and that can't declare, or is it something that generally hasn't been decided yet?
It's not something that, it's something that will be declared at the press conference. I can tell you that my plan is to make FROCH GROVES pay-per-view, but as I said along, it's got to come with the card that warrants that, and I believe I'll deliver that. You know, there's all kinds of fights going on in the next couple of weeks that would see, I mean, Ricky Burns is a big example. You know, Burns could fight on the undercard of FROCH GROVES at the MEN, defend his world title. Scott Quigg, who fights for the world title on September the 28th, he could defend his world title on the FROCH GROVES card on November the 23rd as well. So I'm certainly looking to have a world title fight on the undercard, as well as a couple of big domestic fights as well. So in answer to your question, we'll see what the next couple of weeks brings. It is my intention to build a card worthy of pay-per-view for that fight. If I can't do it, and I can't put the right undercard together, it won't happen. But I believe I will, and I believe people will be happy with the results.
Does people just think that you know it's going to be pay-per-view and you're just not saying it yet? Well,
there's no contract signed for pay-per-view, so I can't sit here and say yes, it's pay-per-view, because it's not agreed. The plan is for that fight to be pay-per-view, but at the same time, it has to come with the right card. And until that right card is produced and until the contract is signed, then it's not done. So I can't really say it is done. All I can say is that it's my intention to be. You know, and we're always, you know, this pay-per-view discussion is always going to go round and round. And people say to me, you know, will you stop talking about pay-per-view in interviews? Well, you asked me a question there, so I'm answering it. But I still go back to, you know, to make these great fights and these huge nights. You know, there's only so much budget in the pot for boxing, and unless we're just going to continually go to America for fights, which is no good for the sport in terms of all our fighters going there. Sometimes you have to, if you're, you know, making a voluntary challenge, etc. But generally, we want to bring as many of the world title fights here as possible, but we've got to find the money. And until the sport is at a level that it needs to be, that money's not going to be available for broadcasters to bring big world title fights to the UK, big mega world title fights to the UK. I'll tell you, FROCH GROVES is going to grow into a massive fight. The press conference is going to be fantastic. Neither like each other. I mean, I was with Carl last night, you know, and I know George doesn't particularly like Carl, so I think that's going to grow into a big fight. Again, I go back to an interview we did. You know, you got to trust me. And you don't have to, I mean, you don't have to buy it, you don't have to believe in what I'm trying to do, but I would back me every time. Do you know what I'm saying? I think like you believe in what I'm doing, don't you?
Yeah, no, I believe in what you're doing.
You believe
but
I'm going to make the right decisions. I think.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't feel the same way as you do. You know more about the pay-per-view situation than most, because you know from both sides. You know why there's people out there moaning about it, and you know why it works for Sky or whatever. But not everyone gets that. So
yeah, I don't expect everyone to understand it, but you know, you've already seen the international cards that have been added in the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, and increased budget will come through successful pay-per-view events as well. And also off the back of that, huge events will help grow the sport in the country. So there are a number of benefits. There are negatives as well, don't get me wrong, and I fully understand people who say, you know, I'm paying my subscription fee and now I've got to pay a pay-per-view, but I'd rather bring those fights and give you the choice, because without the pay-per-view model they wouldn't happen, and you're going to get brilliant fights and improved international schedules as well for your regular subscription. But again, I can't sit here with a Sky. I'm not Sky. People have got to realise that as well.
Are you saying that without pay-per-view there's no possible chance of FROCH GROVES happening? Come on.
Yeah, but where does the money come from?
Well, the same place it comes for any other fight. But you're telling me being a world title fight, that fight simply cannot happen without pay-per-view.
It can. Well, probably not actually. I mean, the money's got to be there for. It's like, you know, it's not a case of fighters and people don't say, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually box for less money, right? So it's like you're on a job for 100 grand a year, right? And all of a sudden I come to you and say, Kug, there's this other job. It's 40 grand a year, but you know, there ain't. You know, I think you should do it, mate. Do people a favour. This is people's careers. So the money that's required, and I've done that deal for that fight. I know what the purses are, right? So to make those purses happen, I need to make it pay-per-view. The only way I can do that is to deliver the right product. You know what I'm saying? But in answer to your question, I don't think that fight can happen without it. So I have to deliver the right card. But, you know...
Two British fighters you're talking about, two of our own fighters. You're saying the fight can't happen unless it's pay-per-view.
Okay, well, what about Hey Fury? You know that fight can't happen without pay-per-view. Well, you know. I mean, there's no... but that's the case. There isn't the budget for boxing yet. It's not big enough. It's not delivering the ratings. We need to somehow grow the sport. And the only way we can do that is to bring the big fights, bring the big occasions, increase the budget. Now, I don't want to sound like a fucking politician, but, you know, we can't have it both ways. We can't just say, oh, well, actually, what we'll do is we won't bother with the big fights. And not big. Big is the wrong word. We won't bother with the super fights. And Hey Fury is a super fight. FROCH GROVES is a super fight. It's a 20,000 stadium filler. You know, massive domestic fight. But that is the model at the moment to make that work. In time, that may change. But the sport is a million miles away from being at that level in the old days, where Sky or ITV used to pay $1 million or $2 million or $3 million licence fee for a big fight. That doesn't happen. The budget's not there. The sport isn't big enough yet. But I think we can get there, and one day that may change. But in the meantime, we have to provide value away from pay-per-view, and that's why we're going to be doing great shows. That's why we're going to be adding international fights. You know, Marquez, Bradley, fights like this. You know. But there's always going to be the element of, you know, why. But again, it's everybody's right. You know, people tweet me and say, I refuse to buy it. Well, okay, don't buy it. You know, but we got to do what we got to do, and it's not about, you know, oh, how do you make the most money? It's about making the big fights happen. And I don't think anyone anticipated these big fights coming round like they have. Do you know what I mean? But
how did FROCH Boutte happen without pay-per-view then?
Because Carl took a very, very small purse. He was a challenger, and he was coming off the back of a ward loss. And Boutte, somehow, I bought him over. I pulled a miracle out of the bag with that deal. But FROCH took a very small purse. He delivered against Boutte. He deserves what he gets now. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, when I tell you about Carl Froch against Lucian Bute, the money that he took for that fight, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't the saddest story ever, but in terms of what he had been earning, he put everything on the line in that fight. It was the biggest gamble. I said to him, look, you can come back in a fight against a 12-rounder against this guy. No, let's do it. I said, yeah, but if I bring Bute to Nottingham, this is what you got to take. Let's do it. You know, and he gambled that night. So now he's getting his rewards.
Okay. Are we nearer to knowing about Darren Barker possibly facing Sturm the end of the year?
Yeah, I'm in talks with Sturm's guys at the moment. Interesting negotiations. You know, negotiations are always interesting, but this is very, very interesting. Sturm has got huge backing from his broadcast partner in Germany. It's a 75-25 split, which is great news for us. We want to bring the fight to the UK, obviously. Darren will get more money for going to Germany, and it's certainly something he would look at and consider. And, you know, again, with Darren, it's almost like we're free rolling now, because a year ago he was finished anyway. So now, you know, he's in a situation where he can pay off his house, be comfortable. Now I want to make as much money for Darren Barker as I can, and I want to keep the belt for as long as we can, you know. But you've also got to understand that, and we had this conversation, didn't we, on the plane, if you can double your money to go abroad to fight, whilst also fully understanding the potential consequences and the problems you may face, it's a tough decision. Do you know what I'm saying? And I know boxing fans, oh, he has to defend it, and you go, 100% agree. That is my aim entirely. Darren Barker should defend his title in England, and I'd love that to happen. But we have to look at the other side. And I know Darren Barker wants to look at the other side, because you're talking about people's lives here and people's futures. You know, and if I said to you, there's £500,000 to fight Joe Bloggs, or you can fight him in Germany for double your money, what are you going to do?
Go and get knocked out in Germany.
We won't get knocked out. I think.
No, not Darren Barker getting knocked out. I'm talking about myself.
But you know, at the end of the day, I think you can have an argument on both sides. The right thing to do is to stay in the UK, get home advantage, and keep hold of his belt. But when you're sitting there thinking, you know what, this is life-changing money. This will set me and my family up for life. It's not really my right to stop him if that's what he wanted to do. I can advise him, and my advice is to fight in the UK. But I would never hold it against him if he said, I believe I can beat Sturm in Germany, got neutral judges, etc., etc., and I want the money. We've got to understand it. This is people's careers, isn't it? It's not like we all want to deliver, you know. And at the end of the day, I'm running a business as well. You know, I love the sport, and I want to deliver for fans. But the selfish side as well is this is a business, and I've got to put food on the table as well for my family. Do you know what I mean?
You've got is it a co-promotion with Dave Caldwell, isn't it? On the 21st of September, Curtis Woodhouse, aka the Troll Hunter, versus Derry Matthews. Did have Rocky Fielding and Tony Dodson. Tony Dodson's pulled out for injury. Rocky now fights for the Commonwealth title, so that's a move up in the ladder belt for him.
Yeah, it's a really interesting division domestically, isn't it? Because obviously you've got Froch and you've got Groves and you've got De Gale, etc. And then you've got Paul Smith, Rocky Fielding, Callum Smith, you know, and I don't really know what's going to happen there, because Rocky hopefully will win the Commonwealth title. Then I guess they'll make him mandatory for Paul Smith, and then obviously you've got Callum hopefully will fight then for Rocky's old English title, and you know, be interesting to see what evolves there in the division. The Matthews Woodhouse fight is already creating a huge amount of hype. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a brutal war, that fight. And Oching against Smith is a really, really good domestic fight. Callum Smith will be in a big fight there as well. So that's a card I'm looking forward to. I love being in Liverpool. The Olympia is great fun. First place me and you met, so it's got a lot of memories. Looking forward to that show. Pleasure to be working with Dave Caldwell. And we'll announce another show next week, early November, up in Hull.
In Hull.
It's got a really, really good heavyweight fight on it, which I'm you know, really excited about, and a really, really good domestic lightweight fight as well.
Heavyweight fight. Not involving any of your fighters.
Maybe.
I'm going to try and guess. You can tell me later. Obviously, Luke Campbell was meant to be fighting this week on Saturday. He's had some unfortunate news, so he's not going to be on this bill. So hopefully he'll be ready for Hull.
28. Well, I mean, you know, Luke's got some personal problems, family illness. That, you know, that's his business. I'm not going to go into that. And it's, you know, he couldn't have been focused on this fight, which is disappointing for him. And, you know, our thoughts are with him and the family. So we've added Callum Smith. We've added as well Chris Jenkins, the prize fighter champion. Looking forward to seeing him in action. You've got Stephen Simmons, the big cruiserweight prospect, in a really, really tough fight. We made a fight with Caddy Sowland to fight the big cruiserweight prospect David Graff, who I think is 11-0. Simmons is 9-0 or 10-0. So the WBC International. So really, really good fight. Obviously Scotty Cardle's fighting Gary Fox, 2 area champions there, facing off, which is, you know, close to an eliminator. Callum Smith's in action, young David Brophy, Paul Appleby returning, and the prize fighter champion Chris Jenkins. Got 9 fights in total. I think Luke will be on the Hay Fury card on the 28th. It looks like, so fingers crossed he's up for it. You know.
Everyone's had babies recently, haven't they? Qualler's just had a baby. Not Qualler himself, but, you know. Ricky's had a baby as well. I mean, you know, you can't plan when these things are timed. Obviously, this fight was around, we knew it was going to be around this time. Is that going to have any sort of effect on going into the ring? No,
I think, you know, having kids is always emotionally a little bit sapping. But these, I remember when Froch had his little daughter just before the Kessler fight, I said, don't go soft on me. But they're fighters, you know, they understand the difference between, you know, work and showtime and family time. And I'm a big believer that having a happy life makes you excel in other areas. Do you know what I mean? I think you need to be mentally and emotionally balanced. And I think having kids, and, you know, Ricky's set up in the fact that he's got a lovely partner in Amanda. He's got a beautiful little baby boy. You know, his career's back on track. He can fight whenever he wants. You know, he's a superstar up here. I think he should be happy with his life. And I think when you're happy with your life, you can go out and do your thing in the workplace. You know, so I think it should give him a lift. You know, he's got something else to fight for now. You're fighting for your kids. And I think sometimes that gives you a different mentality. I saw it with Darren Barker. You know, I always laugh with Darren that a couple of years ago he used to be more concerned about the after party, and how he looked for the after party. Now he's fighting for his family. He doesn't care what his face looks like. He has to win. And that makes you a different animal. It makes you much tougher to beat. You know, it gives you that edge. And I think when you have a family and you know that you're fighting not just for yourself, but, you know, for your partner and your family and your children, it makes you a sterner test. And, you know, I think that the birth of any child should give you a lift. And, you know, he's going to be holed up this week, away getting his sleep where he should be. Then after the fight he can have some family time. But, you know, I've never really known the birth of a baby to affect a fighter since I've been promoted. I mean, I think they all know they need to get their rest and sleep, and, you know, they're professionals. Ricky's not a 2-weight world champion for nothing. But, you know, again, I think it should make you that much more determined to succeed.
Okay.
That time you had kids, wasn't it?
How do you know I haven't?
A few little KUGAN CASSIUS running around Basildon.
I'm not from Basildon.
No, but that's where they ended up, because the girls you were with were from Basildon.
Have you put on a bit of weight?
Yeah. Well, I don't hide it.
No, but listen.
I have.
Hold on. You have put weight on?
Yeah, I would say I put a couple of pound on the off season.
What would you say you're tipping the scales at right now?
I would say I'm about 17 stone 5, something like that. 7, maybe 6, maybe 7. Do you know what? Maybe I got that. Is it an overactive thyroid, or is it poor metabolism?
You might have both. What did you say, Frank?
Oh, he can't talk. Seen the derby on him and the Harris.
I know.
When he's walking around.
I know.
You know what though, right? In all seriousness, if anyone can help me, right? Because I want to get down at 16.5 stone.
That's what I want to get down to.
I want to lose a stone.
Do you know our way, by the way?
Can anyone help me through not doing a lot of hard work in the gym? I mean, I trained for 4 days consecutively over the weekend, right? Which was, my training is a 40-minute run and then some weights, right? And I eat really well. I put on a pound. What's all that about? That must be that thyroid kicking in again. But if anyone can help me, I don't know if there's like a food doctor or, you know, a juicing expert that can come, you know, let's get it going. Let's start the Let Eddie Lose a Stone campaign.
Do you know?
Me and you should have a race.
Do you know? Listen,
We've got to lose a stone.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm
What do you weigh?
17.1. Bang on.
I weigh more than you.
Yeah, nearly.
Yeah, but muscle weight
5%.
No,
Do you know the problem with you, with your weight, is that when you put weight on, it shows in your face because your face is all up like that on telly as well. So you want to sign, I don't know, maybe a bit.
Some geezer tweets me going, "You've put on so much weight. # health risk." It made me laugh.
You are 17.6.
Yeah. But I'm 6'5". You know. You know. I mean, I should be 16. I need to lose a stone. I put on half a stone.
You're not fat anyway. You're just a bit. You're a bit chubby, aren't you?
But I ain't looking great in speedos and that. I've never been in shape though. That's the one regret I've got in my life, is that I've never really looked the part around the pool. You know what I mean? I'd love to. You know, wouldn't you love to just stroll around the pool like, you know, not looking like a fat yeti? You know what I mean? Because like, you know, bit of an airy chest, bit, you know, but oh well.
Receding hairline. Okay.
Oh, okay, no.
No, you're going to say about my hair, big boy. What? I've got my hairline, a few grey hairs. Asian George Clooney. Anyway.
Asian George Clooney. Okay, no.
All right. Well, listen. This press conference is
Asian Rick Waller.
not really.
I think so.
Not really.
Can't sing as well.
Fat Mark Wright.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I'll take Fat Mark Wright. I'll take Fat. I'm getting a few Jamie Redknaps these days. Fat Jamie Redknaps. Fat Jamie Redknapp, Fat Mark Wright. I'll take all of those.
You ain't as good looking as either of them two, to be fair, are you?
Well, you ain't as good looking as Rick Waller, but that's another story.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
I was going to say something, but I won't. All right. Well, listen, Eddie. Thank you very much for talking to.
I mean, you know, I've got feelings too.
I just ran your cheeks. So like, ooh.
I'm not eating again today.
Are you not?
After those 3 sausages, 17 rations of bacon and baked beans, I'm not having another thing. I'm happy, you see. This is the problem.
Fat and happy.
Yeah, but listen, if you're fat and you're happy, clap your hand. Anyway.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS with Eddie Hearn.
When I was stressed
for
out,
from London.
You know, when things weren't really going our way, yeah. I was skinny.
What wasn't going your way?
Just, you know, it was like we were starting out. We were, you know, now we're flying. You want to have the odd burger, don't you?
Do you think you'll ever go to the GQ Awards when people like Samuel Jackson come up to you and going, "You're Eddie Hearn"?
No.
Never.
No. I was quite chuffed when Noel Gallagher came up to me and said...
It's a pretty big name, to be fair. I've met him before anyway.
Oh,
Barker should have sparked Samuel.
It was funny. It was funny.
What would you have done if Barker had hit Samuel L. Jackson? What would you have done as his promoter?
Taking a photo. Jackson on the floor. You know.
You think that would have made the news?
Quite surprised me, because I didn't really... Who would you have been more in awe with? Samuel L. Jackson or Michael Douglas?
I'd be on Jackson over Douglas.
Would you? He's quite cool though, Michael Douglas. He looked the part, you know what I mean? He's old, isn't he?
Do you know just quickly, do you know my biggest knockback, like going up to someone? Do you want to know?
Go on then. What, asking for a photo of me?
Yeah, asking for an autograph. Thierry Henry.
What, he mugged you off? That's got to hurt as an Arsenal fan, isn't it?
Killed me, but then I saw him. I saw him again. I saw him again, and he put it right.
Why? Is it just because maybe I follow more Arsenal fans? Like, I don't know. They seem to moan more than any fan. And you're an Arsenal fan, you know what I mean? They're like, I mean, Piers Morgan, he's like...
Yeah, don't use Piers Morgan as an example of an Arsenal fan. That's a bit probably wrong.
I don't moan.
I don't really moan about it. I don't moan. I just, you know. All right, Eddie.
Right, I'm going down the gym.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS with Chubby Eddie for iFilm London. Chubby.
Overweight. Eddie.
See you later.